I'm currently allowing myself to be tired, allowing myself to relax, allowing myself to just be. It's harder than I ever imagined. I've never allowed myself to do any of that before. That was tweeted by Serena Williams, the Serena Williams. Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Toy Talks podcast. I'm back from Dubai. I was just allowing myself to be, as Sister Serena said. And Dubai was amazing for rest, relaxation, and soft life. Because that was my mantra for that trip. I haven't travelled in 3 years due to the pandemic, and you're looking at somebody who was a travel babe. I would just wake up one morning and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna book a ticket. I'm out of here. The pandemic changed all of that. I was doing solo trips to New York before I started to invite my best friend to come with me. And I was doing Morocco, I was doing South Africa. The South Africa one was even before Snapchat. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I really enjoy just going on holiday and just seeing a different part of the world, relaxing, getting away from day-to-day life. And I hadn't done that for 3 years. And literally I had a meltdown and I was like, I need a break. I need to travel somewhere where no one's going to be asking me about my vaccine history. And Dubai just seemed like the viable place. I wanted somewhere hot, somewhere where I wouldn't have to second guess being a black woman whilst traveling, even though I had one or two experiences, but it wasn't from Dubai natives. It was from people who were also on holiday, like people from certain countries that I don't think typically, consider black people as equal to them. I'll get into that probably later if I remember. It's irrelevant. The point of the matter is I was just really blessed to be able to travel, have that freedom of movement, and be able to afford a holiday that I felt like I deserved, and just be able to rest. And that's something that I've always struggled with, just being able to disconnect, rest and relax. And as black women, I feel like we're laboured so much that rest and relaxation doesn't always seem to be part of our conversations, because we're always doing something. We're always sometimes on this rat race of the world and life and work and home and family. If I sound a little bunged up, that's because I am. Heathrow Terminal 5, BA. Oh God. I don't know what with that aircraft, because the AC, like, imagine that I've come from hot, like, beautiful mocktails, and then I came here to bad vibes. And on the plane, I felt that AC on my head, and I felt my feet cold. And I'm quite cold-blooded anyway. I felt cold, and I've just been battling this cold. It's not COVID. It literally is a cold. And my body's just, I think where I've just had the rest and relaxation, my body has gone into this state of, oh my God, we're catching up with you now. And actually, your immune system's quite low, etc., etc., etc. Anyway, today's been a really weird day. I'm not even going to lie. I'm just very despondent. My phone is on Don't Disturb, or Do Not Disturb. I just don't want to be disturbed. Maybe I should call this podcast Do Not Disturb. I don't know. Maybe that's an episode for another podcast. I don't know. I think I'm naming this episode Full Disclosure. And I'm going to sneeze in a minute. Oh, God. Listen, this cold has got me in a chokehold. So this is a dilemma episode because I received a couple of dilemmas, one of which I thought was really interesting. And I wanted to obviously come on here and address some of those dilemmas. But more importantly, it's the learnings, and it's also being able to be in a safe space to be able to share those dilemmas so that we can all learn. Every dilemma episode that I have ever recorded for the Toy Talks podcast, I've learned something from. And I'd like to think that you have too. Also, being able to hear other people's dilemmas make us reassure us that we're not alone in some of the situations that we're encountering in the world of work. I've always said that the Toy Talks podcast and platform is for black women, to black women, about black women first. And I love the fact that we are able to find safe space in the podcast. And even though I'm recording every 2 weeks, I can still see the download numbers, and they're really high. And I think it's people who are new to the platform. I think people are re-listening to episodes, and this is what this podcast was about. I remember when I first recorded a podcast and released it, and I believe it was the first release was in January 2021. I recorded it in December. I was in Miami, and no one was expecting a podcast from me. And for me, the objective was always to have like a body of work about the world of work through a podcast that people could revisit. Because up until that point, all I was doing was recording on Snapchat, and it was a very safe space for me because it lasted 24 hours and that was it. And then people were asking for something more solid, and the audience was growing. I had the Toy Talks live. So I feel like everything had come to this moment of the podcast. And I feel like I need to find out how long this podcast will be going on for, because I think it's 3 years. I like to say it's 3 years, but I will say that not only has it been a journey, it's been one that I've really enjoyed, because I've also found it cathartic. Because I'm also, even though people tend to think that the more senior you become, more money you earn, you're less likely to experience certain things, I hope that I have completely shattered that illusion, because I myself have found this podcast really cathartic in being able to not only discuss topical issues about the world of work that affect us directly as Black women, but share my own experiences and how I've navigated them. Because I always say that I will always speak from a position of experience. I'm not the type of person that will talk on a topic that I'm not experienced about. I'd be honest about that if I wasn't experienced, or where to get that information. But for me, I've always thought of what qualifies me to be able to talk about the world of work, and what qualifies me are my experiences, the fact that I'm a Black woman, and the fact that I have navigated the world of work successfully and still have experiences to discuss. So yeah, this is the dilemma episode. Before we get into the dilemmas, I think there's a few things that we should discuss. Before I get into the meat and potatoes, there's all the peripherals, the preludes of stuff that I like to talk about. And I think you guys love that, appreciate it, like it, or you understand the format of this podcast. The opening quote was from Serena Williams about, being tired and being able to actually center oneself and acknowledge you're tired, acknowledge the tiredness, and seek respite. Something that I found really bizarre, really, really weird, is, I'm away on holiday. And even if I go on holiday every year, it doesn't matter how many times I frequent holidays, but the fact is I hadn't been away for 3 years. And the fact that people didn't understand that as a Black woman, I wanted to take some time off and not be laboured was really bizarre. Like, I was still getting DMs about certain things and topical issues that were happening in the UK that I actually, in that moment, I didn't actually care about. I didn't give a shit. I just wanted to rest. I wanted my brain to not be tick, 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 tick. And that little crease in the middle of your forehead, and you're always thinking, I wanted a flat crease on my head, a flatness on my head. I didn't want creases where I'm always thinking or tensioned or reaching for the paracetamol or Nurofen. I just wanted to do nothing. And to be getting DMs about what's happening in the UK, the weather, people asking me, where are you staying? It was very, 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 very weird. Because it's almost as though even us as Black women, we've been indoctrinated to not even give each other a break. Because it was very much from Black women. And I was like, I'm all for communication. But when your girl is on holiday, please allow me to put my out of office on, and please open your eyes to receive the out of office message. It was just doing too much. Some of you were doing the most. And then when I was on the plane, I was thinking about, I was like, where does that come from? And it comes from how we are indoctrinated in society as Black women to be laboured. To be laboured and to be tired. I don't know one Black woman in my life that ain't tired. We always tired. But we don't give ourselves the antidote to tiredness. And when we decide to take the antidote to tiredness, there is always going to be somebody that's going to be still labouring you as if you're on the clock. Girl, I am not on your clock. Nobody's on your clock. Leave people alone. So I have literally gotten to that point in my life where my mantra for 2023 is no bullshit. It's no bullshit. No accepting it though, no participating it though, no allowing it to come near me. Oh, it's no bullshit. It's like no BS. That's just no BS. So part of my no BS mantra is when you are giving me BS, I'll say it's, you see, before it's all that PC shit. Well, we know Toya ain't PC. But sometimes I'd be a bit more empathetic. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. If I was able to put an out of office response on my DMs on social media, I would do that. I love the do not disturb button on my phone. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Some people could say, well, Toya, you don't have to go into your DMs. I don't, but I should feel like I can if I want to without feeling laboured. And it's this theme of labouring black women is going to be very progressive in this episode, because I feel as though we as black women need to be accountable for how we labour each other. Oh, I'm going to take you out to church. We labour each other. And the thing is, I think it's okay to commune in community, but it's also okay to give people a break, especially when they say they are what? Tired. Sometimes we have to take a step back and recognise that we are worthy of rest. But because we are always allowing others to trigger us, labour us, exhaust us, we forget that rest and relaxation should be as a point of obligation, a part of our existence. We are obligated to rest and relax. Because body not be firewood now. If you do not rest and relax, you will drop dead. It's just a fact. You haven't heard that you lot's government, you lot's Tory government, wants to raise the age of retirement to 68. This is the Labour I'm talking about. This is the Labour I'm talking about. They want to work us till we are dead. And on top of that, the rate of inflation, the cost of living, the cost of transport, everything done rise. So if you're going to increase the age of retirement to 68, then everything else is rising. That means we are literally living in a society that continues to labour us all the time. But the labour of black women is, I believe, a lot more intense, because we are laboured because we are often at a disadvantage when it comes to the world of work, especially when we're now talking about progression, financial progression, promotion. When we're talking about actually seeing each other in those senior positions, we are laboured. And then we're labelled again double, because your Tory government is then labouring everybody else in society as well. It is a lot. And when you think about it, when you really sit down and deep it, if you do not take back the need to rest, some of us won't even hit that 68 years old retirement. And the whole idea of labouring people until they drop dead is that they don't access their pensions. Do you understand? All that money that you save, all that money that you also put into pension pots, if you don't hit that 68, I need to understand where that money goes. I need to know, because if you're not married, if you're married, where does the money go? Listen, all these things, I think we need to remember it, especially when there's a next election. I'm not joking. You see, when there's a next election, the way I will be campaigning for my social media to remind us that the Tory government, they are trying to put shackles on our feet. Hey! We will now start seeing an increase in the purchase of Nurofen and paracetamol at this rate. I ordered some water recently to be delivered, and I didn't actually go and take receipt of that delivery. It's actually Kay. So Kay took receipt of that delivery. It came upstairs and he looked really down, and I was like, babe, what's up? He was like, oh, the guy that delivered the water, Toya, this man was just explaining to me that he came out of retirement. He's been retired for almost 10 years, but he had to come out of retirement because the money his wife earns part-time is not enough. And given the cost of living crisis, the rising bills, energy, all of this, he's now had to go back to work. This man is a retired bus driver for over 30 years. He was a bus driver, over 30, 40 years. And then he retired. Now he has taken a job as doing delivery for Ocado. And where he was saying that his feet are hurting him because of the boots he has to wear. He feels very disorientated in the van. And there was a sadness that hit my soul. Because if I had met him there, I would have even offered him tea or coffee, because clearly he was offloading himself, because he's probably just baffed at how now he has now been laboured again. Imagine working for 30 years, 40 years, and then you add to your pension pot. Then as you are trying to enjoy your life, as you're going into your very senior years, you're now having to come out of that to go back to work in this cold, in this suffering. And then I just thought to myself, as a black woman, how do I avoid that happening to me? How do I, and you know what? I don't actually have the answer. Because when people talk about financial freedom, I don't think people understand. In order to have the financial freedom people boast about, not only do you have to have an endless supply of money, you have to have generated that generational wealth. And all of us are on that race to do that. Our individual life races to create generational wealth, I don't want to be rich. I'm not interested in being rich. I'm interested in being wealthy, because with wealth, not only comes money, I also include knowledge in that. And I feel like when these governments are announcing certain things that label us, we need to think about how can we make best this situation, so that we are not continuously laboured. And I'm speaking specifically to us as black women, because our labour is different. Our labour is also different to black men. It's different. And the worst part of it is, it feels like there's no end, because all this boils down to, at the end of the day, when it comes to the Tory government, is money. It comes down to money. And it's just a sad fact. That's why I'm saying you have to take these little blessings where you can. If you need the rest and relaxation, go on holiday, go and do that. And what I'm also saying is, we have to also respect each other's boundaries, life boundaries. We have to respect it. If somebody is on holiday, don't go and tell them what weather warnings are happening in the UK. No one cares. That's why they're not in the same weather climate as you. When someone's on holiday, don't come and tell them what's going on in the world, and you then want to rent my rage. No, learn to leave people alone when they're taking a break, is what I'm trying to say to you. Because as black women, we know how hard it is for us to give ourselves permission to take a break. When we have permitted ourselves, there is somebody now lingering around to try and bring us back to the stress of the world that they're living in. Sometimes escapism. Talking about renting rage, we've all seen GrassFields and the video that one of the founders of GrassFields released. And I was on Instagram, and I said, I need to do some research before I share my opinion. And that is because, number one, there's always three sides to every story. Your side, their side, and then the truth. Do you understand? And that's to say that everybody has their version of what the truth is. In this case, there's actually evidence to back it up. Okay? And for me personally, when I see a black woman in tears, in distress, it hurts my heart, because I see myself, don't I? Don't we? We see ourselves. But the story was given 2 + 2 was equaling 50. And me and my dyslexic self, I needed to organise my thoughts. Some of you were showing your asses on Beyonce's internet. Oh my God, somebody's stolen a black woman's business, yada, 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 yada. But some of you allowed your rage to be rented for free. And it was for a waste. Because when you actually do the research and you actually read about what's actually happened here and contextualize it and really digest it, you will see that our black sister made some fundamental errors that led not only to the demise of the original GrassFields, if you like, but led to her frustration and led to her tears. One thing I'm always going to say is, in my experience as a black woman, I will say that I was never taught about the world of work in education, talk less about business. I fell into business and I fell into ignorance when it came to business. I didn't know nothing about registering stuff with Companies House. I didn't know anything about accounting and filing. I didn't know shit. I didn't know how to run a business. And I have 2 businesses. I have 2. And I'm going to be honest, I've been learning on the job. Learning from mistakes, speaking to people, and making an informed decision based on research. Now, GrassFields went into administration. I'm not going to go into every detail, and I'm not going to do a forensic analysis here, because what we need to be concentrating on is the learning lessons. So I can't remember the young lady's name. I think it's Chrisette or Christelle. I can't remember her name. Please forgive me. But basically, she went online and she posted a video, and I believe it was on her TikTok, basically saying her business had been stolen, and it's her and her sister's business. Now, I have bought stuff from GrassFields before, especially over lockdown. I don't know where I thought I was going during lockdown. And I bought stuff actually very recently, a few months ago. In fact, my experience a few months ago now makes sense given what's been happening with them. And the communication was poor. My last experience, it was bad. At one stage, I contacted the bank and I was literally going to say to the bank, get me my money. Because I hadn't received the item, no communication, nothing. And it had gone on for about 3 months, and then lo and behold, it lands in my house. But the reason why I bought the item had even passed, Sha. I'm glad that I didn't actually ask the bank to recall my money, but rather I wanted to know what options were open to me. So that's why I'd spoken to the bank. So the young lady basically said her business had been stolen. Now we're living in England. So when you're using Beyonce's internet, you just better know what you're saying, because one thing about social media and the access to social media is also the access to what? Information. Now, I don't have time to go on Companies House and read their accounts. And I don't know why people got time to be doing that shit when you should be focusing on your focus. Now, part of my research was understanding what it meant for a company to be in administration. I've studied this at master's level, but I hadn't looked at it for a long time. So I really wanted to reacquaint myself with what it was, really listen to what she said, and also do my own research. Now, when a company goes into administration, it's basically a company is in what? Financial difficulty. The administrators look at the best way to what? Save a company, especially when you have amassed creditors. Yeah? Long story short, a company owned by, I believe there's more than one owner of this particular company who are Asian. Now, when you put that into context and how we see certain businesses that are black owned that are then bought by Asian companies, we've had our experiences, right? So black hair companies, for example, predominantly owned by Asian companies. Let's call it what it is. Let's just quit the bullshit. Predominantly owned by Asian companies. Or you'll have black companies that are then sold, and when you do your digging, they're bought by Asian companies. And then they change the formula of stuff, and we're no longer centered as black women. So you can see what I'm saying when I say renting the rage of black women. Can you see what I'm saying here? Now, this company, quote unquote, bought the business. Now, bought it through the administration of this business. It's not like they went to go and privately invest. And that is the nuance here. Now, remember, I'm saying this very high level. I'm not using technical terms because for the purposes of this podcast, that's not what we're doing here. I'm not here to do a forensic analysis on GrassFields. Yeah. The only people that should be doing that forensic analysis are the sisters, because they built this business up, blood, sweat and tears. And where it's ended up, I understand why she's crying. But throughout this process, going into administration, this, that, and the other, this young lady these sisters did not consult a lawyer, and they admitted it. I personally don't understand how your business could be thriving the way it is and you do not have a lawyer on deck, especially when your business was once valued at so and so millions. It doesn't make sense to me. I am a master's holder. I'm part qualified lawyer here. Non-practicing, I do commercial contract consulting. That is my bag. But because I'm so invested in my business, both emotionally and financially, there's no way I can best legally serve my business if I had any legal conundrum. I have a lawyer on deck that I'm able to go to and say, because I know that I'm not autonomous in my approach. And this is me telling you that I have legal acumen, legal understanding, and legal qualifications here. But even me, I can sit here and tell you that I would know how to deal with my own legal issue. But I don't think I'm best placed. So I don't mind going to procure the services of a third party who are qualified lawyers to help me with certain issues. So why these young ladies didn't do that is actually beyond me. But they made a series of very inflammatory accusations. And I know that it was born out of what? Emotion and ignorance. As they're going through this administration, this company legitimately bought them. And bought them for less than what the company was worth maybe a few years ago. So they didn't buy them for millions, by the way. I think it was at 41,000 or something. Bearing in mind they had people, creditors that they had to pay. So we're talking about factories, models, employees that were not paid because of the financial difficulty this business had gone to. Now, the company that has now quote unquote bought GrassFields has also released a statement, because one thing you can't do is now go on Beyonce's internet to be doing, what you're doing and expect a company to defend themselves. Now, I'm not saying that the company that ended up quote unquote buying GrassFields did things in the right way. For example, they hired the sisters back as employees, started to discover certain things, sacked them, then, they didn't have access to their emails and blah, blah, blah. Maybe that was hard. But if you've just bought a business that's failing and you blame the sisters for the failure of that business, then you hire them back and they're not towing the line. It's not in your interest to keep them there. And that's on period. So having done the assessment, read everything, assessed it from a learning lesson perspective, I want to share a couple of things with you. When anyone comes on Beyonce's internet to come and cry and come and rent the rage of black women, we have to also sit back and do our research. Now, I'm not saying as black women we don't empathize. Of course we do. But she was very inflammatory with what she said. She was directly speaking to us as black women, or as a black community. And the problem with that is when you were having your problem from the beginning, you didn't come to speak to us as a black community. It's now all said and done, all said and bought, now that you want to do that. And the thing is, if you want to do that, fair enough, but you have to be transparent, because her lack of transparency has meant that now people are now starting to question her integrity. And there lies the problem. When you start questioning someone's integrity, what you're really saying is, are you telling us the truth? And that's a sad part, because apparently there were certain people who used to model for GrassFields that were defending the sisters, and then when certain things started coming out, took certain posts down because they could see that 2 and 2 is equaling 50. But as black women, I think what we need to do in this situation is actually sit and take the learning lessons from the mistakes that these sisters have made. Because admittedly, they have admitted they've made mistakes. And I think one of the mistakes was that video that she released. I think that as a community, we would have maybe reacted more protectively had they just been transparent about everything, rather than making inflammatory and accusatory statements that didn't make any sense. Then people then drawing their own conclusions about her integrity, and then going on TikTok and other parts of Beyonce's internet to come and basically, rub salt in the wound. This is a business that these sisters work hard for. We have to testify of it. We know GrassFields because the sisters basically worked really hard, did the marketing, did whatever was required to bring GrassFields to the forefront. We know of GrassFields because of the quality of their clothing, the uniqueness of their clothing, and the aesthetics. Every black woman was included in terms of body type. every black woman felt, and I say every, and I don't mean every as in every single, I just mean as our body types are represented in different ways, we you could feel that affinity to the brand. Do you understand what I'm saying? And they're two sisters, and the story, was really beautiful. And I think the biggest issue that arose was when one of the sisters became very ill, and allegedly they used the business funds to get medical help for the sisters. And obviously, the company that have now bought GrassFields have said it's a misappropriation of funds. Da da da. Without getting into the semantics of it, at the end of the day, if you're fighting for your sister's life, you will use the money that you have access to fight for her life. So we can't really judge that. But if you want to look at it from a business perspective, if that allegedly took place and that led to some of the financial distress, then yes, it is a misappropriation of funds. But again, I would ask the question, where was the accountant? Was the accountant on top of ensuring dividends were paid? Was it the right accountant? How was the accountant communicating information? Was there not an alert or a concern that was communicated to the sisters when the company began entering into financial distress? What advice was the accountant providing? Where was the lawyer? All these things. And, having a business is not beans. It is not beans. And remember, Companies House is a public accessible website. Your profit and loss, everything there, bah. So let's just be real. I'm going to be really honest with you. One of my businesses, no one knows the name. And that's probably where I make the most money, because I just don't want anyone in my business. I don't want anyone in my blood club business. My other business name, I don't think people know. But again, this is a learning thing that I think we all should learn. Some people are putting their home addresses as their registered business address on Companies House. If it's a public accessible website, why are you giving people your address? You wouldn't go and post your address on TikTok. So why would you? Do you understand? These are the levels of things of education that we need to learn from. So when we are seeing these things or this situation that's happened, number one, before you start going on Beyonce's internet to come and rip singlet, shirt and bra, make sure you educate yourself on the full information, know what you're talking about. Number two, there is a lot to learn from GrassFields. There is a lot, especially about business acumen, business knowledge. If you're not sure about if you're not sure about something to do with business, Google. If Google is not accessible, talk to people who have businesses. Reach out to a lawyer. Go online. One of my really good friends is a lawyer. When I started my business, he was the person I'd go to. And then I was like, actually, I need somebody a bit more impartial. I went on Google and found a lawyer. It's not difficult. You just have to commit also to the knowledge that that you need to gain in order to be an astute business person. And I'm sitting here telling you that I learn something every single day, especially when it comes to business. I had to change my accountant last year because my accountant was not being tax efficient enough for me. I found a new accountant. My accountant, I'm on top of them. My foot is on their necks. Do you understand? Because just because I found an accountant doesn't mean that I kind of take my foot off the brake. I still need to make sure that I'm getting the value for money, that I'm still being educated in terms of being financially savvy, and making sure that all my everything is paid on time. Hey, me and HMRC, we're cool. I want no problems with them. I do not want it with HMRC. If they tell me I owe them £1, I give you £1. I'm not. Do you understand? And bookkeeping is so important. Some accountants don't have bookkeeping systems, which is shocking to me. Then you yourself have to because remember, you're the director of your business here. So you then are in charge. If something goes wrong with your business? The accountant, they will come and, but you're the director. So it begins and ends with you. So for me, free agent, I've spoken about this before on the podcast, if not on Instagram. I had to get a bookkeeping system and tell my accountant anything that needs to be filed has to go through the bookkeeping system. If it's not, then it must be in writing as to the reason why not, and any problem that arises or liability sits with my accountant. I don't play any games. So before we're sitting there casting judgment, Sometimes these situations happens to teach us as black women things to learn about business. And it's unfortunate that we're learning from other people's mistakes. But sometimes some mistakes are there to be learned from. So this whole rent to rage and the approach from that particular lady on TikTok, I didn't really appreciate it, because the ignorant were there doing TikToks and but actually some of them looked a bit stupid, because now when you look at it, this sister wasn't being transparent at all. And the worst part of it is now the slanging match of statements between the sisters and the new owners of GrassFields. It's not looking very good. It isn't. And again, I get it, when a company is your baby and you feel protective and you feel emotional, but when you act in emotion, these are the things that happen. People start now questioning whether you're telling the truth, your integrity is compromised, and you start making defamatory statements where companies now need to defend themselves. So you may find yourself facing a defamation of character suit. So you have to be very, very careful how you use Beyonce's internet to communicate rage. And when you're trying to rent the rage of the black community, we're clued up now because we have access to information. But rather than chastise these sisters, rather than lambast them, throw whatever opinion, we now have to step back and learn. Everybody wants financial freedom, but there is a process to financial freedom. When you start a company, it's not easy, especially when you're using your own money, because a lot of businesses find it very hard to get loans from the bank, especially when a bank knows it's a black person. Sometimes the hurdle is higher. Now with GrassFields, they had quite a lot of loans. I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like during the pandemic, obviously businesses went through a lot. I think businesses are still recovering now. I was offered loans. I definitely was offered loans because my business was directly affected by COVID. I am my business. And I'm so grateful to God that I took 0 of them. 0. Because again, financial education and financial literacy. We have got a podcast episode about financial literacy. You see, all these things that are happening, the podcast has covered them. If you have ears, go and listen. Open them wide, go and listen to them. My financial literacy has taken me on a journey whereby, even if you dangle the money in my face, I'm sitting here telling you that I'm not going to take that loan, especially if I know my company is dependent on me. If my company is in financial distress, then I have to make a decision. Do I wind up the company? Do I continue to reinvest my own money? Or do I take a step back, rebrand? All these type of things before I would ever consider a loan. And I'm going to be honest with you. If I had to consider a loan from like a bank loan, I'd rather shut my business down. That's the truth. For me, I'd rather go down the investment route. I would. But even that I say to myself, my business model is very simple, and I financially invest in my business, and I work my finger to the bone to invest financially. I have a web developer for the masterclasses, and it's not cheap. But then my thing is, I have to make the sacrifice if I want my business to thrive. Do you understand what I'm trying to say to you? I know what it takes to run my business. I'm not sitting here telling you I'm sitting on millions, but what I am sitting here telling you is I've at least learned enough along the way that I can sit here and say I've had a business since 2017. 2017? Yeah, I've had my business since 2017, both of them. And I learn every day. But one thing I don't take for granted is that business knowledge is learned every single day. So when you see people in business and they're thriving, you don't know what sacrifice or the journey they've had to go to get there. And it's important for us, just because something's not happening to us, it's happening to somebody who looks like us. Go and learn a lesson or two from it. Take it, act on it, ingest it, inject it, and move forward. I wish those sisters the best of luck. If they've done it once, they can do it again. They can set up a new company. And as black women, we will support them, right? Or at least some of us will support them in the hope that they've learned from their mistakes. But renting the rage of black women is not right. And that's what that sister attempted to do. And I think she needs to be very, very careful, because when you start speaking about a person's integrity, you're basically talking about their reputation. You're talking about their ability to be honest, Okay, so That's kind of what I wanted to talk about. Now, I want to get into the dilemmas. This cold is really trying to do me in. Hey, my nose is blocked. Okay. Okay, let's start with this dilemma. Chasing an interview follow-up. Hi Toya, I hope you're keeping well. I recently interviewed for a position I really want, and the interview went well. I interviewed on the 11th of January, and they would get back the following Monday or Tuesday. Both days go by, and I hear nothing. Wednesday comes again, nothing. I emailed on Thursday just saying I'm assuming I wasn't successful, to thank them for their time and ask for any feedback they may have. Please find attached my email and the lady's response. I've showed her response to a few people, and they have told me that something seems off and to not focus on this role. I'm really disappointed. I wanted this role, but the email left a bad taste in my mouth. Also, the interview I had was the second stage with the hiring manager and the facilities manager. The third stage would then be to speak with the managing director, and in their words, it would be her chance to gauge the new starter's vibe. When they told me that I immediately got red flags, and quite rightly so, because I don't know this vibe. What's vibe? What does vibe get somebody vibe? What's all that? So you go for 3 stages to speak to manager and director for vibes. Wow. Please let me know your thoughts. I do think I should just bin this role off. So let me read the attachment. So this young lady sends an email. She says, hi, and she says the person's name. She says, I hope all is well. Thank you so much for your time last week. As I haven't heard back from you, I'm assuming you decided to go with another candidate. Please provide me with any feedback you have. It would be greatly appreciated. That's a very nice email. Short, sharp, straight to the point. And this is their response. Hopefully it loads. Hi, and they say her name. Sorry for the late response, but I have been in budget meetings all week. We were very happy with your interview and still have you on our list of suitable candidates. However, due to a lot of no-shows, we have had to go back out to advert for the, so she needs advertise for the post, but we have not excluded your application. I will stay connected with you once we have concluded all of our interviews. Kind regards. Sis, how many times did I call your name? 3 times, Abby. My sister, move on. What? Move on. I'm gonna say a couple of things. First and foremost, you see this you get a vibe. It's your energy that's telling you that something's not right. Listen to it. It's the ancestors talking to you, darling. It is the ancestors saying to you, our dear daughter, our dear sister, ring the bell and move along. It's girl. Secondly, I want to say that your email to them was very nice, very perfect. But I told you the truth. And the truth of the matter is, there is a list of candidates. It's like they're going shopping. Sainsbury's, Abby. Excuse me. And because there's no shows, they want to go back and advertise. Let me tell you what they're really trying to say. Of all the lists, none of you are what they would deem as suitable enough. So they want to go back and put their foot in the water to see if there's more. For me, I'm going to tell you this now. Call it arrogance, call it what you like. If I'm not your first choice, I'm not any of your choices. Because for me, I don't just have one interview, I have multiple. Go out and get an interview masterclass. I talk about all these things. If I go into, it's not every job that I'm offered that I accept. I've told you all, I have a 95% success rate at interviews. I've spoken about this before. I'm very proud of it. I enjoy interviews. Some of you may see it as daunting, or not me. I love a good interview, you know, because it gives me an opportunity to test myself in an interview setting about how I come across, how I communicate, and what I have learned. Interview questions don't seem to change that much. if it's a first stage competency based in my industry, don't change. So what needs to be enhanced and adapted is my ability to convert those interviews into a job offer. And that's what the interview masterclass is all about. That's the first thing. My sister, your interview went well. You said your interview went well. They said your interview went well. But sometimes you have to also accept that no matter how well your interview goes, some organizations are just not for you. And the ancestors will show you this. It's like they give you warning sign. Pepe don't go there, oh, Pepe don't go there. Pepper is there. I'm telling you, an organization that recruits in this way, when you get there, there's issues. I'm serious. You know, when they talk about interviews, people think interviews start from the moment I hit my interview time. No, interviews start from the point in which they communicate that they want to interview you. How they manage the interview process is imperative to the type of organization you're going to be entering. So you feeling this energy is because, sis, there is bad vibes. Now, for them to have 3 stages, now let me tell you something. When an interview has 3 stages, my eyebrows already rise. Do you understand? And at the point of recording this, my eyebrows are bushy. So if they're rising, there's a problem. Okay. But for the 3rd interview to be a managing director, and then they said here, manager, and in their words, it would be her chance to gauge the new starter's vibe. I'm so sorry. What does that actually mean? What does that mean? I will tell you, they are bad vibes. Sis, take this as a learning. Take the interview as a learning. What did you learn about yourself through that interview process? What were the positive things? What were things that you could have improved in that interview? Take those learnings and, sis, go where you are wanted. Go where they will treat you with respect through the interview process and at least give you an impression that they will treat you that way when you get to that organization. Do you understand? This job is not worth it, sis. Clearly, the post is not urgent for them to recruit for. Because if they urgently needed somebody, they don't have time to now be accommodating no-shows by re-advertising. Because remember, you got to remember, when organizations are advertising, it costs money. They cost money to advertise. It costs money, and remember, they're advertising because they're advertising not on just free sites. Sometimes they advertise with agencies. Remember, they have to take time out of their days, and we say days because it's 3-stage interview, to be able to interview candidates. That's an investment of time. That time is money. And what they're basically telling you is they've got all the time in the world. So they're quite happy to put you on ice, and they have no-shows, but they don't think anyone is good enough from the list of candidates that they interviewed to offer any one of you the job. They don't think that you have enough of whatever it is they're looking for. Sis, go where you're appreciated. Because I'm telling you now, sis, if you continue to wait for this job, your self-esteem will be eroded. And you'll be now thinking, what could I, do you understand? You'll now start internalizing it. One thing I'm going to tell you, when it comes to interview, I don't just interview one. I have back-to-back. Sis, I need to be busy and distracted. I'll give an example of something. It's like when you're dating. I keep telling people, stop dating one person. Date plenty of people. So that if you are dating somebody and they don't call you back, you won't even remember the name again. Because you've been dating so many people that, in fact, if one doesn't call you, you will not even know again because you're on your next 4th, 5th date. When you're interviewing for these jobs, you're dating them. You haven't committed though. You're just dating them. Dating. The problem is you're not dating these jobs properly. That's why you're doing one interview. So then you're now worried about, do you understand? Let me give you another example of something. I'm always interviewing. You have to understand that about me. I'm always interviewing. I could be in a contract or I'll interview. I don't care. I'm not wedded to nobody. The loyalty I have to give is to myself. My progression, and my bank balance. That's my loyalty when it comes to the world of work. So I had an interview for a particular organization, And I'm going to tell you, this is 2023, January, Abby. That was the best interview I've had this year. It was fantastic. And also, I liked the interview style. It was very conversational, but also I felt very relaxed. And I'm not saying I don't usually feel relaxed, but this was different. The energy was different. It was a good energy. Now, they basically said to me, when could I start? All of this. Now, if I was just a stupid mumu, I'll be thinking, this job is mine, oh, this job is mine, oh. But I know Oyibo people, they'll be looking at you, they'll be smiling, they'll be stabbing you in the back and say, oh my God, darling, you're bleeding. I'm not a stupid person, I am not stupid. I take everything people say to me, especially the world of work, with a pinch of salt until I see a signed contract, a start date. Oh my God. I would listen. Even if I get a start, I will still be interviewed. I don't trust nobody out here. Rescinding offers are real because of budgetary constraints. That's real, darling. So they said they're going to get back the following week. My sister, I didn't hear anything. I didn't even remember again. Do you know why I didn't remember? Because I was dating so many jobs. I was having an interview. But the reason why this one particularly stuck out to me is because it was a really good interview. So one thing with me too, I like feedback. My sister, I like feedback. Because what is feedback? How could I better improve? What were your things of concern? What could I have done better? And you take that and you run with it. So I asked for feedback, and I didn't hear anything. And I didn't even remember again. I'd already gone to Dubai. So whilst I was in Dubai, I get an email to say that unfortunately I wasn't successful. But remember, I'd already emailed for the feedback. So, darling, I already knew I'm not successful. What be this? I didn't get no response. Then, when I got back to the UK, I see that I have a voicemail. And it's from this company. And, sorry, the bit that oh God, I forgot this bit. So, after my interview, I had a call from HR asking me how the interview went and everything. And I told them it was a good interview. I felt it was very good. I said, I like the transparency of the question. I was very positive about it. They said, oh, if we were to offer it, would you take it? I said, it depends on the terms. Honey, let me tell you something. Again, you're dating a job. Just because a man said, if I was to propose to you, would you accept? My dear, I don't know. It depends on the terms. It depends how you propose. It depends how you treat me. You understand what I'm saying? Some of you will be laughing here. But it's the truth. This is how I see things in my head. So anyway, so after that call from HR asked me how it went, then obviously didn't hear anything. Then I emailed. I didn't hear anything. I'd gone on holiday. So by the time I got back from holiday now, I have a voicemail. Hi, Taya. It's Rebecca. Talking that high pitch. And she's like, oh, I got your email about feedback, so I wanted to give you your feedback. Now, why don't you want to give me my feedback in writing? Because you people are not stupid. Can you see how everybody's covering their back? Everyone cover your back, cover. Mm-hmm. My darling, because I've been doing interviews, I'm not going to lie to you. I've been back in the country now over a week. It was only today. I was like, Toya, you should call that woman back, So I thought, let me call the woman back. Because also as well, it's for my personal development. So the woman said to me that my interview was fantastic. She goes, Toya, I'm telling you, your interview was fantastic. What it boiled down to is they wanted somebody who specializes in intellectual property and data protection. So I said to her, listen, I take this feedback because one thing I was honest about is I'm not a specialist in those areas, but I deal with those areas as part of my day-to-day. I'm a commercial contract consultant. Of course I deal with IP and data protection. But what you find in most organizations, they have a data protection officer. So why would I be a specialist if there's an officer there? I'm not applying for officer role. And for intellectual property, you have to go to like barristers or counsel, as they call them, because sometimes the IP is so specialist and so niche that you need to go to and get counsel advice. So for me, I can give you like high level, but I can't give you the specialist advice, of course. But in the advert, it's not asking you for that. So they're just nitpicking now. There's just nitpicking. So anyway, so I said to her just that, and I said, I didn't say the nitpicking bit, but I just said that, I'm not expecting, whatever. So I said, you know what, I take the feedback on board and that's great. But for me personally, there's nothing I could do with that feedback because number one, if you're looking for a specialist in those areas, I wouldn't have applied for the role. And secondly, if you wanted a specialist, you should have made that clear in the job description. And she went quiet. Hence why she called me and she could not put that in writing. There's absolutely no way because they're opening themselves up to challenge because I could say it's an unfair process, all of this. Because the process is unfair where you're now capitalizing on things at an interview that you didn't put in an advert. One could even draw a conclusion that it was deliberate. You know, I'm not trying to, cast aspersions, but you understand what I'm saying. But I'm telling you right now, in that situation, I felt as though it was for me about the learning lesson. I don't want to work for an organization that nitpicks in that way. I don't. And I don't want to work for an organization that doesn't know what they want. This organization clearly don't know what they want. So I'm definitely not the right candidate for them. And to be fair, even if they offered me the role, I would have probably asked for a second interview or a second meeting and to clarify certain things like what does your day-to-day look like? How much emphasis is on the data protection? All those type of things. Sis, I'm using this as an example to say to you, what is for you will never pass you, and what is for you is for you. In this situation, trust your spirit, trust your energy. This one that people are saying is looking suspect, is looking fishy. No, sis, some organizations are just bastards. That's just the beginning and the end of it. But what is the learning lesson? What have you learned here that you can take forward in your next interview? Clearly, you interview very well. Clearly, you come across very well from what I can see. And I think that you need to just take this for what it is and move on. Please interview, multiple interviews, sis, so that you're not focusing on waiting on this one role. For me, I'm going to be completely honest with you. If it wasn't for the fact that the interview was really good, I would not have asked these people for a feedback. I wouldn't have. But I do encourage the request for feedback because it's good for you and your personal development. I know that I interview very well because if I have a 95% conversion rate to offer, then I don't always get that feedback, do I? Because I've got the offer. So I too have learned through that process that actually, Toya, if you feel that the interview's gone well, asking for feedback is also great. So I need to maybe do that, but I get a lot of offers, so I'm not always in that situation. In this situation, sis, you asked for feedback, and the feedback is a window into this organization. Sis, you see that window? Close the window, close the blinds, close the curtains, and go to the next opportunity because there's an opportunity waiting for you. So hopefully that has helped you. Hopefully the examples I've given you have also helped you too. Let's move on. No. Okay. Oh my God. The way my nose is just blockaded. Okay. The dilemma is called Work colleague stated I'm too private. Hi, Toya. I hope you're doing well. I just have a question and would like your opinion on this. I'm a contractor and she's put what she specializes in, but I don't want to say it. In the banking sector. We are 5 contractors and we had a one-to-one meeting with my manager regarding permanent roles. He wants to keep me as permanent staff and agreed to it last year. And today we had a meeting, a one-to-one, just to discuss about the potential permanent role. Then he said to me that he had feedback from the stakeholders and other team that we sit together, told him I'm very private and not outspoken. I was shocked. We are 5 contractors and 3 of them tend to go to lunch together with other stakeholders and the other team. And I do not like to get involved with them on any work politics. So during lunch, I always go on my own and do stuff and don't really go with them for lunch. Now they have reported it to my manager stating that I'm too private and not outspoken. My manager then told me, I should be open to them and I came to work to do my job. If there is anything related to job tasks, we always have meetings and I always give my ideas about. So I don't really know what they mean by too private and not outspoken. Seems like they want me to start going to lunch with them, which does not make sense. I felt disappointed, a bit worried about the feedback. I would like to know your opinion on it. Kind regards. Sis, let me tell you something. This is the politics we're talking about. This is the politics. I'm going to be really honest with you. To get where I have in my career, I've had to play those politics. But I don't play them anymore because I'm senior enough that I don't feel like I have to participate in certain things. I don't know where you are in your career, but what I don't understand is you're a contractor. So I don't understand why they want you to go to lunch as a contractor. It doesn't make sense because the whole idea as a contractor is you're going there to deliver and you leave. I think the problem is that you are amongst other contractors that do contrary to what you do. So it's almost like, oh, you're the odd one out. That's how it makes it seem. I get where you're coming from because you have a contractor mindset. But sis, I'm going to tell you this now. Since you're interested in perm role, you have to pay the politics and toe the line. That's on period. If you were staying as a contractor, I would just tell you to ignore it. After all, you're a contractor, sha. If they don't like it, that's their business. You finish your contract, you move on to the next one. But this is slightly different because you're now considering perm. When you are a perm employee, whether you like it or not, you are having to pay the politics in a slightly different way. You will have to go to the odd lunch. You will. It's uncomfortable, sis. You may even have to pay for the odd lunch if you like, if you want to take it there. But they need that team collaborative spirit if you're going to be a perm. And these are all the reasons why I will not be a perm by choice, because I'm not interested in it. I don't care what they had for lunch. I don't want to be outspoken because if I was to speak to you 4 down, I'm not interested in them things. And as a contractor, our mindset is different. We think differently. We deliver, we go. We're not there to make friends. We don't give a shit about who is training on what course because we're not involved in those things. But I think that your mindset has to change slightly if you're now considering perm. And actually, a question I would like to ask you is, are you ready to make the shift from a contractor to a perm? Because that shift is steep. It's a short, sharp shock to the system. I had a very, very, very close friend of mine who I adore, admire so much. And she'd been a contractor for years, and I'm talking over 10 years, and she went back to perm. Recently I spoke to her. I didn't recognize her voice. Not because she had a cold. She sounded subdued. Because she's now perm. So the rules of engagement are different. She said to me her boss is a psycho. All of this. Because she's committed to perm, she hasn't committed in mind. And that's the reason why she's finding it so hard. My sister, she's been there for 9 months. She's now planning to come back to contracting because she knows her mindset is so permanently situated as a contractor. She can't make the switch to a perm. And the type of person that she is, I was even shocked that she went to perm, to be honest. I've been contracting, so going on now 7 years. And I'm telling you right now, I think that I would find it very hard to be a perm because the politics is different. You see, as a contractor, the politics, you could choose to participate or not. As a perm, you participate in it whether you like it or not. Do you understand? That's number one. You being outspoken and stuff, I'm sorry, it's all nitpicking. And it's actually very disgusting to expect somebody to be outspoken if that's not within their nature. And it reminds me of when I was a perm and a manager had come in new externally and said that my face didn't fit. And I've shared that story here on the podcast. And I'm not joking. That was the job before I started contracting and never looked back. So when you're telling somebody that they're not outspoken enough, it's like people can't all be the same. And outspoken as a black woman is very different to being outspoken as a non-black person. Let's be real. Sis, take time. Just because somebody's offering you a perm doesn't mean you should take everything that's offered. If you want to do perm, is here the right place for you to do a perm? I'm just asking you these questions. I'm not saying they're not loaded. I'm just asking you these questions so you can ask yourself. Because whether you like it or not, what is very clear from what I've read from what you've said that your manager said, in order for you to be a perm, you're going to have to make some changes and they're going to be very uncomfortable. And in order for you to be accepted as a perm, those changes have to come because that's the only way it's going to be able to flow. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that's my opinion. And I hope I've given you food for thought. And I'm speaking to you from one contractor to another. And I'm just saying to you, sis, when you make the decision to go perm, there's a lot of things that have to change. And it's not even about compromise. It's just change. When you are a contractor, it's more about compromise. And you're compromising on the things that you want to compromise on. But when you are a perm, there's change that has to happen in order for you to be able to exist as a perm, especially when you're now changing over that mindset as a contractor to a perm. It's a lot. And this is why I am recording the contractor and freelance masterclass, because being a contractor and a freelancer is a very different mindset, very different approach to being a perm. And that is just on that side of things. And obviously you have the other side of whether inside scope, outside scope, when organizations try to scope, I can't even speak, scope creep and get you to do things that are not, you weren't contracted to do. That's all part of being a contractor. But I understand where you're coming from too. Don't get it twisted, because I feel like if I was to ever be perm, God forbid, because for me, I just don't want it, I would have to be contracting somewhere first and then be perm. I don't like the idea of going into an organization blind and being a perm. I personally, I'm a bit wary of that. However, I've done enough due diligence that it wouldn't be the end of the world. But sis, I need you to really step back and think, because what I'm reading and the energy I'm getting from you here is that, that level of disappointment comes from the fact that you've invested so much already as a contractor, and you thought you had done enough, and you thought the focus would be on your deliverables, but clearly you're working for an organization who see things differently from a perm perspective, and it's not enough that you're just delivering. The social elements are important to this organization. There's some organizations, they don't care about the social elements, but I think that with perm, there is that social side that you're obligated to participate in that you wouldn't be expected to as a contractor. So hopefully that helps you. Keep me updated, and I wish you all the best. Okay, next up. So this one is called Thank You for All You Do update. Hi Toya, I hope this email finds you well. I want to express to you how much I have benefited from the podcast. I have used my God-given breath to spread the word of your podcast and teachings from it to my sister, to my friends. I have bought 2 of your masterclasses a few years ago, and they have been nothing but successful as a result. I am a born and bred black woman from the Bahamas. Hey sis, honey, I need to put Bahamas on my list, honey. I need to visit there. I hear it's hot and the food is great. I moved to the US for college and became a registered nurse. Then went back for a master's in nursing to become a nurse practitioner. Well done, sis. We love that. We love that. And I'm finishing my 2nd master's degree in healthcare administration, graduating this coming May 2023. Hey, winner, 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 winner. Hey, we black women are winners. I love to hear it. My ultimate goal is to retire in the C-suite and be a chief nursing officer. And so shall it be. I love that. I have used your CV and negotiation masterclasses to get me where I am at the time you are reading this email. I love this. I have since recently retained a director of nursing position at an organisation I left 7 months ago because they refused to give me a raise from $102,000 as a nurse practitioner. As a result, I left and went to an organisation who gave me £115,000 since leaving. I applied for a position as a director and have returned to this organisation with over £20,000 more than I asked them for 7 months ago. I went from $102,000 to $115,000 to now over $140,000 in 2 years. Yes, 2 years because of your masterclasses and podcast tips. I am a 36-year-old black woman, and I can tell you that because of you and your platform, I am a winner, and I'm going to become a CNO. I have listened to every single podcast episode and re-listened based on what I needed, and when I do, I listen to them as though it is my very first time. May God continue to bless you, your family, and your career. Amen. You will forever be blessed, and I speak that now. Have an amazing day, doll. You are a blessing. I just wanted to share with you to let you know that this podcast is practical and has an edge on no other I have heard. Kind regards. Winner, 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 winner. We black women are winners. Come again now. Winner, 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 winner. We black women are winners. Let me tell you, there is no how you can use this podcast and the masterclasses and not be successful. Nah lie. There is no way. You have to be... Listen, I'm giving you the blueprint. I'm telling you. I'm coming here with truth on truth on truth on truth. I'm a 6-figure babe. Hailing from North London, Tottenham. I'm a 6-figure babe. I'm dyslexic. They told me I couldn't. They said, nah, Taya, I don't think you can do this law thing. I think you're more like a team leader. You know, like a Sainsbury's or Tesco's. And you know, the irony is I worked in Tesco's and Sainsbury's and I lived my best life there. But I also wanted more. I know where I started. You think that it's easy to sometimes relive some of my traumas on this podcast. It isn't easy because I'm having to take myself back to an emotional place that I had to drag myself out of to be able to function in society and move on. Recording those masterclasses it's not beans. Time goes into it. The attachments, time goes into the templates, time goes into it. I own the intellectual property of everything I produce. I'm sharing it with you. And all you need to do is open up your mind to receive. That's it. That's all you have to do. Listen, let me tell you something. I can record and release a podcast every 2 weeks. Do you know why? Because there's enough episodes to educate, teach, and support you as you navigate the world of work. This woman has had a £20,000 jump in salary. Do you know what? God will continue to bless you, my sister. God will you see the ancestors, they will continue to circle you and order your steps. The ancestors will open every door you knock on. And every door you knock on will be elevation of money, elevation of title. Do you know why? Because you came here today to confess the truth. And let our other sisters know that what you have used here is the podcast and the masterclasses, the CV masterclass, the negotiation masterclass are powerful masterclasses. And you top that up with the blueprint of the podcast. Come on, because it's the point of this. My sister, thank you. Because you know what? I know there's a lot of people that listen to the podcast. I know, because I see the download numbers. I know there's a lot of people that follow me on social media because I see the numbers. Even now, I'm telling you, it's been months since I uploaded on TikTok. People are still saving the things on TikTok to their favorites. So I know people are learning, and I know that it's not everybody that will come and share and testify of, you know, how they've benefited. I know that. But you better know that there are women, black women out there that are definitely yielding the fruits of the labors I've done and fed into our community and sowed into our community. This is a classic example of a practical example of a black woman using resources to elevate herself. That is why I'm here. That's why I do what I do. I keep telling you all, I'm doing the Lord's work. And some of you think I'm joking. And listen, I'm telling you, I've been through shit at work. There's even something I'm yet even to come and talk here. I've been through hell. Even when I'm in the hell, in the pit of hell, I'm still coming here to come and read to you. This is my grievance. This is what happened. This is what happened. We've gone on a journey. Some of you are new on this Toya Talks journey. If you want to be successful in the world of work, honest to God, if you want to be successful, you have to open your mind to the information that I'm teaching here on the podcast. If your mind is not open, you will never reap the potential of what you could gain out of the podcast. I'm telling you, facts on facts. Facts. Because I'm sitting here telling you now, I'm in a position where people are offering me job and I'm like, I don't want, no thank you. Or I'm sitting here saying, these are my terms. I say, okay, please come. You think it's beans that I've been contracted for 6 years? This year's coming 7 years. It's not been beans. It's been a lot. Before then, I was a perm. And remember, I've been in different sectors, not just public, private sector. People think, what's this one sector they say? Oh, there's one sector they say, and they use it to, I can't remember the name of the sector again. Corporate. People use, maybe Toy is just corporate. darling, I've been there corporate, been there, done that. I'm no longer in corporate anymore. I was in corporate for a few years. Then I went to public sector, private sector, third sector, charity sector. I've worked in all these sectors. So this podcast and platform it's not just for people corporate. It's for anybody that is a black woman in the working world. Stop trying to find a way out. This podcast is for you. Open your mind. Open your what? Your mind. My sister, I will email you back just to congratulate you. And I just want to thank you so much for reminding me of my why. It's when I read things like this, I'm like, this is the reason for my why. This is my energy source so that I can continue to do more, like make more masterclasses, do more podcasts. Because sometimes as well, sister, sometimes I'm tired though. After you deal with some of these or you bought people in the workplace, you'll be tired. Why wouldn't you be tired? I'm telling you, I've got at least 10 episodes I have to record because some of these people are still jamming with madness in these workplaces. Jamming what? With madness. I have to come and tell you. Just because you see me there on Instagram, doesn't mean that I haven't just had to go and fight a war and slay some lions and tigers and bears before I had to come now and come and shine my teeth on the Instagram. As black women, we go through so much. So when it's time to celebrate our wins, please do so majestically with your high shoulders. With your high shoulder, with the highest shoulder. Listen, I'm telling you, when you see my Louis Vuitton bag, when you see all my jewelry, you better know I worked damn hard for it. I'm not going to hide it. It's before that. You say, I don't want to upset anybody. I don't care if you're upset. Use tissue. I will use my mind to come and show you majestically how the Lord and the ancestors have been working with me. Because I work damn hard for my damn coins. I work hard for it. And whilst I'm working hard for it, I'm still teaching, educating, guiding, supporting black women in the world of work. Because I recognize also that part of my purpose is also to teach. I recognize that. I do. And I don't shy away from it. But what I cannot do is take everybody to the knowledge. If you don't want to receive it, I can't make it put in your brain. I can't do it. Hey, sister, well done. Oh yeah, high five. Give it to them. Gang, 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 gang. Give it to them. Gang, 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 gang. Right, next email. A big thank you for what you do. It's entitled, Hi Toya, I hope you're doing well. I just wanted to say thank you for all the tips and advice you provide because you really are doing the Lord's work. I started working at a big tech company last year and I was really excited for the prospect such a role would provide my career. However, thanks to your advice, I still made sure I was constantly interviewing and engaging with recruiters. This is somebody who listens to the podcast. This is somebody who listens to me on social media. And this is somebody who opens up their mind to receive the information, uses it on a practical level. My company has issued an announcement that they will be laying off staff as part of a tech layoffs. And most likely my team will be affected. But thanks to your advice, I already have interviews lined up. I know whichever way this situation goes, I will land on my feet. And I credit a significant amount of this to the advice and insight you give. Kind regards, a big fan. My sister, winner, 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 winner. We black women are what? We are winners. You decide if you want to be a winner. I want to be a winner, never want to be a loser. Yeah. I'm a winner, darling. You're a winner. We are all winners if you decide that's what you want to do. You know what makes me so happy? Is that this woman hasn't waited until the tech firm has made the big announcement. Sis said, oh yeah, I interviewed them. They come. Because what people need to realize is when there's redundancies, when a tech firm is either going through an acquisition or whatever the situation may be, if people are laid off work in your industry, that means that the market within your industry will be what? Saturated. And you need to get these interviews and these job offers before your market becomes saturated. This is why I keep telling all of you, keep on interviewing. Keep doing it. Even if you've got a job, even if it's once a month, go and interview. Go and what? Interview. You're in your probation period. Go and what? Interview. Why? Because as my mother says, my mother used to say this and she still says it. She says, A bird in hand is more than one in the bush. You know what that means? The one you have in your hand, you know. But it's more than the one that you can't see in the bush. You have to shine your eyes. You have to what? Shine your eyes. Nobody's coming to tell you, the market's going to be really saturated. You have to have the foresight to start planning ahead. And this is why I say, you are the architect of your career. When I am in a probation situation, that may be one in hand, but actually that could be one in the bush, because that job is not actually mine. I've got a masterclass called the Passing Your Probation Masterclass. Some of you do not want to go and buy that. What some of you will do is have your probation extended, or you're not past your probation, and you come to me now and ask me for a solution. And my first question is, did you buy that probation masterclass? And then I'll ask you, have you still been interviewing? No. Why? Because you put all your eggs, all those fragile eggs, in the basket of that job, of that basket of that probation. You get extended or you don't pass, and then you're just left stranded there. Just all your eggs smashed. Wakasa. Like that. What is that? When will you start choosing you? Don't you know that the only opportunities that you have are the ones that you create for yourself? You need to speak to recruiters. You need to find out what's on the job market. I had a relative that one time said to me, Toya, when you get a job, you just need to focus on that job. Otherwise, other opportunities will distract you. This is the same person that was made redundant, that looked as if somebody poured cold water with Dettol on his face. Don't come to me with that shit. I don't trust what? Nobody. Even if I'm in a job, there's no problem why I shouldn't be interviewing maybe once a month, once every 3 months. Why not? Why not? If you choose to be distracted by other opportunities, listen, I don't see it as a distraction. I see it as keeping abreast of what's happening in your industry. There are some people that have been in one job for 5 years, and I'm telling you, if they go to interview, they will not pass it because they're out of practice. They are what? Out of practice. I had an interview recently for a very big tech firm. And I say, really big tech firm, huh? Even when they come to talk to me, I was like, little Lord me. Why not? Why not? Had an interview. Great interview. Great interview. Honestly, very good interview. Remember I told you my 95% conversion rate? I didn't actually get that contract. And I was cool with it. There was a peace about it that I didn't get it. There was something peaceful in me. Usually if I don't get it, I was like, what's this? And it's not a usual occurrence. So sometimes not getting it is very humbling as well. Do you know that 2 weeks later, I got a call from the same tech company? The interview panel I interviewed with, they said Toya's interview was impeccable. But we didn't feel as if this role was good enough for her because she's senior. So the likelihood is maybe she won't see this contract to the end. That's their view. Cool. So one of the interview panel sent my CV to somebody else in a different department, said, Toya is a consultant. You're looking for so-and-so, go and interview Toya. The agency called me panting that they've never seen this one before. That this particular tech firm, in fact, they don't hire a lot in my field. But when they do, they like the creme de la creme. They were like, they've actually specifically asked for you. So I had the interview. The interview went very well. The man offered me the job on the spot. I said, before I could consider this role, I need to meet the managing director and the program director of this particular project. The guy looked shocked. Let me tell you something. When you do interviews, it gives you confidence. That's why you need to practice interviewing. Practice interviewing is not your friend having a crib sheet of questions. We're past that stage now. You need to be in interview settings. Listen, the reason I can sit here and confess to you that I'm good at interviews is this. It is most humbling that I have a conversion rate of 95%. And that 5% is usually either I don't want the role, it's not a good role, or it's not a suitable role, i.e., maybe I'm too senior, maybe they meet me and they think, there's a reason. And there's a list of reasons, there's at least 4 reasons as to why I may not get that job. And I'm aware of it. But also from a personal development perspective, it's very humbling for me. Because it means I'm still challenging myself. Do you understand? You can't get everything all of the time. It's not 100% all the time. You're not always going to get a job you interview for. Who are you? You're not going to always get a job. I'm a human being. But the reality is, I don't just do one interview for one company and just sit there waiting for the answer. I'll be interviewing 3-4. Honey, I think this month is January, Abby. Remember, I spent 1 week in Dubai. I did at least 4 interviews this month. Sometimes I'm bored. I'm serious. Sometimes I'm like, let me just do. Bearing in mind, I usually hold down 2 contracts at the same time. You know that? I've got 2 contracts here. One of my contract ends at the end of this week. That means I'll have 1 left. If I want to add another one, I can if I want. But the reason I'm sitting here telling you this is the refinement of self is an ongoing process. It is a journey. If you take charge of your career, if you take charge of it, you will be fearless in your approach in your career. I am fearless in an interview. I am humble. I am fearless. I am confident. I am knowledgeable, and I'm a subject matter expert. This tech company that are now, I'm telling you, I'm going to have that interview. I think the interview is this week. The one that I've requested to have a follow-up. They're going to offer me the job there. He's basically offered me the job. This one is just preliminary because Toya said. And the likelihood is I may not take it. And I'll tell you why. Because I've already said that I want time out of my career. I need a break. I need a few months break. Because I work back to back to back to back to back. And I need a break. But the reason why I'm still doing these interviews is because I still want to keep my feet wet. I want to know what's going on in the market. And also for this particular company to want me, I'm telling you right now, I know within myself that even when I take my sabbatical and come back, and I go back to them, have you got anything? They'll come to me. And I know that. I know that. Let us learn to prioritize our career and be the architects and be at the forefront of it. Don't let people railroad your career. It's yours. And this is what I'm trying to communicate in this episode. This is what I'm trying to inform you. And this is the reason why anytime something happens or there's a progress or, there's a learning lesson, I'll come here and I share it here. My dad always used to say, those who have ears, let them hear. If you want to hear, you hear. If you don't, you don't. But then don't go question other people then who are on this trajectory of their career or earning 6 figures. You can't be coming to question them if you're not willing to do the work. I'm telling you, do you know how much confidence I feel being able to walk into a store and save up for something, want something, go out and get it, because I've already laid the foundation and I'm harvesting my fruit. You can't come to me and ask me, why am I harvesting today? You can't do that shit, because when I'm in the trenches, when I'm in them interviews, when I'm in the meetings, I don't see anybody there but me. And this is the attitude you need to have. Stop being a passenger in your own career. Some of you are passengers in your own career, waiting for a breakthrough. You know the thing with being passenger, sometimes you get car sick. Yeah. If you are a passenger in your own career, you will never be at the forefront of it because you're always at the back. Decide where you want to sit in your career and decide what position you want to play. Nobody can want more for you than you want for yourself. That's on period. Is it easy? No. Is it exhausting? Yes. Is it rewarding? Most definitely. Our sister here, it's very rewarding when you're doing a 20k jump. Sis has got aspirations and she's achieving them one by one because she's putting herself in a situation where she'll be able to achieve those things. She's got the Toy Talks podcast, she's got the masterclasses, she's got the knowledge, she's got the qualifications. Sis is on her second masters, for goodness sake. So, my dear sister in the tech firm, I'm really, really like comforted to hear what you said. I'm so excited for you and your next chapter. And I am asking the ancestors to cover you, to guide you. These interviews, may you have options when it comes to the offers that will yield from these interviews. And I'm giving you already a congratulations because I know that the door of success is there waiting for you to open it. Right. I had a dilemma in the last episode. The last episode was, if you're not signing, I'm declining. And there was a young lady that wrote in and basically said, she had a dilemma. And she basically said that, and I believe it was, yeah, is it that one? It's either if you're not signing, I'm declining, or it's the episode before that, which was permission to be sick, dilemma episode. It might be the dilemma episode, actually. Please correct myself. The young lady, basically, in a nutshell, was saying that she made I believe a grievance complaint. She wants to work remotely because the heaters in her workplace are not working, and they're giving them like fan heaters, and she's becoming really sick because of the heating. And the dilemma is actually quite concerning because effectively every organization owes you a duty of care, and they're not actually extinguishing that duty of care by making sure that the health and safety is maintained, and the heating and temperature of the office is one of those health and safety things. Now, I gave her some advice, and I told her effectively what to write in a grievance, and I asked her specifically to ask for the health and safety policy if one wasn't readily available. She then wrote in to me again, and she started sending me all these attachments and stuff, and I'm going to be really honest with you. I do not provide a one-to-one service. That's not what I do. What I do here is I'm able to provide an opportunity to share a dilemma and provide a response. And I often do tell you to follow up with me, but you have to do the do. There is enough episodes. There is enough examples. I even have a grievance that was very successful, and I read it. So the structure is there. So everything you need is here. Now, I can tell when people write in and they don't listen to the podcast and they're just here to come and grab information and run. I can tell. And I have put a stop to that. If you don't listen to the podcast and it comes across in your dilemma, I will know. So there's a limit to how I can help you, if then I have to refer you to other podcasts to get the information as well as whatever I say you have to commit. You've got to commit. This podcast is not you listen to one episode and then you've got the antidote. It doesn't work like that. You do have to go on the journey as you would do with your own career. Again, if you're not willing to invest in your career, you shouldn't expect anybody else to. Long story short, she sent in an email and she asked for... So I asked, like, through my assistant, what exactly are you asking me here? Be specific, because if you're specific, I can answer the questions, but I'm not going to run a grievance for you. I'm not doing it. No one runs mine. And if I run your grievance, you then lack the skills to be able to run something yourself. If you have a complaint, you have to be able to run it yourself. You've got to. Because you're not always going to be in a financial position to go and hire external, or you're not going to be in a position to be able to feel confidence to advocate for yourself. And ultimately, if you are going to be at the forefront of your career, part of that is going to have to be the ability to advocate for yourself. Anyway, after the grievance, she now sent me the result of the grievance, and she lost on all counts. And I'm reading this grievance and I'm thinking, something's not right here. She didn't even ask for the health and safety policy. She didn't ask for it. And had she gone down that route and then used that as part of her grievance, she would have had them by the tail. Because what you're basically saying when you ask for the health and safety policy is you have a duty of care and you failed in your duty of care. In fact, she could have even gone as far as accusing them of constructive dismissal. And I'm telling you, they would have towed the line. But because she didn't adapt her grievance to the tone that I was trying to encourage her to adapt, she lost on all counts. But the bit that was very disappointing is they basically refused her request for remote working whilst they sort out the heating system. And as I'm reading this, the reason why they refuse it is actually a very justifiable reason. Because what this young lady didn't bother to tell me when she sent her dilemma in was they extended her probation period. That is so significant to her grievance, to what she was then going. And I'll tell you why. A key element of her grievance was that she wanted to remote work. Yeah? That's the key element of it. That's her objective. Yeah? To get them by the hook for the duty of care and get them to rectify their failed duty of care by giving her the remote working. For me, it's a fair trade. But their thing is, well, we extended your probation period because we have concerns about your work. In fact, our concerns are so significant that we have told you that we're extending your probation period for X, Y, Z reasons, and we've seen no improvement. This young lady failed to disclose that. So as part of her grievance, I couldn't even address it in her grievance because I could have said that her prolonged suffering of a detrimental health and safety environment is further being is now being used as a punitive measure to punish her for not passing her probation. There's a way you can use this English grammar to do them, but she didn't even bother to tell me that. Can you see why I don't manage people's grievance for them? Because if you're not going to give me full disclosure, how do you expect me to help you? Listen, I'm not doing that. The only people I represent in terms of business is business to business advisory consultancy. That's it. But individuals, I'm not going to do that. Outside of the dilemma episode, I'm not going to do consultancy for individuals. I'm not doing that. Absolutely not. And this is a classic reason. If you don't give me full disclosure, how can I help you efficiently to get the result you want? You've heard so many dilemmas here where I've advised women come back and give us the results and they're successful. But if you don't give me full disclosure, how are you supposed to get the objectives that you want? And I went back to her and I said it to her in an email through Jennifer. I said, I'm sorry, you didn't even tell me about this. Like, why didn't you not? But the thing is, if this young lady really truly listens to the podcast, she would have told me this. But she doesn't. And the thing is, the issues that have arisen, I said to her, you have to take responsibility for it. In this day and age, where we are now seeing the results of the pandemic, employees have more leverage than they've ever had before. What is that leverage? I'm so sorry. When you are working for any organization, you know the type of person you are. You know if you want to be at work Monday to Friday. You know if you're a hybrid worker. You know if you're a remote worker. Fair enough, you wouldn't have anticipated the heating issues in your office. Fine. But at least you should have negotiated some form of hybrid working into your contract so that if a situation arose where you need to now rely on hybrid working, you could say, well, it's part of your contract. You have to adhere to it. But you didn't do that. They extended your probation. You didn't bother to get the probation masterclass to see how we cover the extension of probation in the masterclass. No, you didn't. You continued. And now you find yourself in this situation where they're not even negotiating with you about how to actually work with you to deal with the heating issues in your workplace. They're giving you shit heaters and every day you're sick and you're taking time off because you're sick. Then there's strike action and they say, basically, if you don't come into work because of strike action, they're not going to pay you. This is what your workplace is saying to you. This is the treatment that you're receiving is abominable. But you've been complicit in it because number one, you haven't given me full transparency. You haven't managed your probation very well. And the same manager that you said, oh, she'll support you from work from home, is the same manager now that when push came to shove is basically saying, well, we extended your probation. She made it sound as if her manager, your managing director, is the reason why they don't want you to remote work. But it's actually your manager that dobbed you in. She's the one that wrote in the grievance, a response to the grievance and said, we've extended your probation. We're not happy with your performance. Listen, if care's not taken and you don't pass your probation a second time, they'll get rid of you. I'm just telling you now. They'll get rid of you. That's if they're not planning to do it now. Because you didn't cover yourself properly. You didn't give full transparency to me during your dilemma. And you're not being honest with yourself about the conditions that you're working in. The reason why I'm saying this is full disclosure is very important. GrassFields didn't give that full disclosure. This is why everybody's using them like fried rice and jollof rice on Beyonce's internet and on TikTok. Full disclosure, sis, has got you now in a situation where you've lost your grievance on every count. And now, through what you've sent me, I've seen that they've extended your probation. Sis, your time is numbered. Start interviewing. Is what I'm going to say to you. Anyway, I think that we've come to the end of this episode. This is a long episode, but you guys are always begging for it. So you've got it now. I want to thank each and every one of you for your support, for listening, for your patience, and for really just, coming here as a community for us to share. I read all your emails. They get forwarded to me from my assistant. I see all of them. All the dilemmas that we've spoken about today, all the feedbacks that we've gotten today. I really, really hope that you've learned something. I hope that the body of this podcast episode and the themes that have ran through this episode is something that you'll be able to take away and use on a practical level. The masterclasses are not there just to occupy space on the website. They're there for you to purchase, to learn, to use on a practical level, and to reap what you have sown in purchasing those masterclasses. Open your mind. Make a choice to be the architect of your career. Invest in yourself. Invest in yourself. Listen to the podcast episodes. Read the show notes. If you can, listen to all the podcast episodes. You've heard this queen, the nurse, where she said, director of nursing, let's address her properly, where she said that she listened to the podcast from the beginning. That's somebody who wants to invest in themselves. If you want success, you have to do the work. It's not going to knock on your door. Hi, my name is Success. Can you let me in? Don't work like that, darling. As Black women, we owe it to ourselves to have a foot in the game, to understand how we're going to navigate white-dominated spaces. We owe it to ourselves to also take the rest and respite that we need, but to also be strategic in how we navigate the world of work. If you would like to follow me on social media, I am very active on my personal Instagram page, which is Toya_Washington. There is a Toya Talks podcast Instagram page, which is Toya_Talks. And of course, I am on TikTok, Toya Washington, all one word. I have been recording TikToks. Yes, I have. You know, when I get fresh braids, I'll remember now to go and upload a few things. Yeah, because I'll be looking cute. Work-related stuff, of course. And there was a few things on there as well from last year, but I will be uploading some new content for TikTok. Also as well, I will be recording 2 more masterclasses for the Toy Talks website. So if you are interested in any of the masterclasses that currently are housed in the catalogue of the toytalks.com website, go ahead and go and have a watch, go and download, go and invest in yourself. Thank you so much for listening. Please share that podcast. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts. You can rate the podcast also on Spotify. If you have a work-related dilemma, your dilemma will be dealt with anonymously. No names will be mentioned. Even if it's just feedback on how you have benefited from the podcast, it's all anonymous. Please email hello@toytalks.com. If you have a particular masterclass maybe that you think, actually, Toya, I'd really benefit from this masterclass, you currently don't do it in the catalogue, please email hello@toytalks.com with a suggestion. I asked the question on my Instagram page for some suggestions, and I've got 2. One suggestion is the contract and freelance masterclass, which is currently in the works. It will be recorded in February and released hopefully in February or early March. And then we have the maternity masterclass. This is an eagerly requested masterclass. I'm currently working on it to have that uploaded before Easter. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all of you. Please follow me on social media, listen to the podcast, share it, and I will see you again on the next episode, a brand new episode on the Toy Talks podcast. My name is Toya Washington, and you have been listening to the Toy Talks podcast.